I'm Dave Bianchi, one of the founders of Keep Truckin' Meadows Beautiful. Keep Truckin' Meadows Beautiful all started with the arch downtown, the arch that says biggest little city. One of the premier public relations people, Mark Curtis Sr., who was working at Harris at the time and involved with the chamber, went to the chamber and said, you know, why don't we get a group together and study all aspects of life in our community. And so they decided to form a committee called the Biggest Little City Committee, and it involved Fred Davis from the chamber, Bob Lewis, and many others. This new organization decided to study all aspects of our community and what we needed to do to help improve it. And they put all these committees together to look at various aspects and wanted to do a study which they would present to our community leaders. And they asked me to head up the cleanliness committee. And I said, fine. And then they asked anybody in the community that wanted to come join these committees to be there. And they came out in droves. I had this large committee of people from all aspects of life, and we started talking about doing a study, and they finally raised their hands and said, you know, we don't really need a study. We know that we need to clean this place up. Why don't we just start going out and doing it? And that was kind of the beginning. And someone that was astute enough to hear that conversation that was involved with the Biggest Little City Committee also heard the Parks Committee, headed up by Dave Pressler, who was then the Parks Department, head of the Parks Department. We're talking in the same direction. And so they put the two of us together. In the meantime, another member of the chamber and a person heading up the downtown renovation group by the name of Rich Iori was doing some research, and he discovered that the city of Reno had paid a fee to keep America Beautiful to be an affiliate. And there was sort of an organization that was formed, but they weren't doing much. And so we just moved forward in then forming a new organization. And we asked a community leader by the name of Bob Pierce to be its first president. And they dubbed the organization the Western Nevada Clean Communities. So that was the original name. And Western Nevada Clean Communities formed a committee made up of all kinds of community leaders. It was a great board of directors, rather large, but a great board of directors. And they went from there, and we started to get funding from organizations like a new one called Truckee Meadows Tomorrow, which still exists, which was looking at the quality of life in Reno. And they had received a large grant, and they liked what we were doing, and so we started to receive some monies right away. And we decided to do our very first project. And that very first project was a community-wide cleanup and Adopt a Park Day. And that took place right here where I'm sitting at Pickett Park, right across from Renown Medical Center, which was then known as Washoe Medical Center. And we not only got all kinds of volunteers to go out in the community and start cleaning up, we decided to have a big party afterwards right here at Pickett Park. And we had the elephants, for those of you who have been around a while, the elephants from the Nugget, Bertha and Tina. We had entertainers from Circus. We had the Washoe Medical Center helicopter landing out here in Pickett Park. We just had all kinds of entertainment and food and beer and sodas. And we just had a wonderful time. It was a lot of work. And we decided then to hire a part-time executive director. And Idora Silver, who was very active in the community, decided to take that on as a part-time basis. We soon discovered, after a couple of these cleanups, that this was going to be more than a part-time job. And Idora said she had other profession, and so she could not continue in that process. And the board started meeting and deciding to hire a full-time executive director. Well, they interviewed people and hired Alicia Raban as the first full-time executive director. And Alicia led the organization for a number of years and just did a great job. And Alicia stayed with us until she started the Nevada Land Trust. Washoe County provided free rent for us right in the assessor's office. So we had an office in the assessor's office. It was small, but it was adequate for a while. But eventually we had to move. I'm standing in front of the Del Monte property where Keep Trucking Meadows Beautiful moved. But before all that happened, we had some changes in executive director. As I mentioned, Alicia Raban went on to start Nevada Land Trust, which joined us in our moves in the future. After she left, we went through a couple of very quick executive directors whose names will be not mentioned because they almost ruined the organization. And we reached a point where we didn't have an executive director, and the board of directors was running the organization and doing all the office work. I know they gave me a job that fit my ability. I was able to pick up the mail on a weekly basis. But we did run it until we hired a young man named Wes Reed. Wes Reed was a very calm influence and settled things down and got us going back in the right track. When Wes decided to continue his education, he recommended that we replace him with Christy Kakaruglu. And of course, Christy then started and stayed with us for 19 years. And during that time, we had an office just around the corner from this property, which was kind of a dilapidated house, and we survived there, but eventually Washoe County moved us here. Unfortunately, about the time we moved from the other property, it burned down. So this property served us well for a number of years, and then we moved on from there. Thought it might be fun to talk about some of the programs that we're still doing today that we started back in the late 80s, early 90s. Things like the program we initially started, which was Adopt a Park and community-wide cleanups, but we're also doing an annual river cleanup that started back then. We also recycle Christmas trees every year, and that's just been a phenomenal program over time. And the Adopt a Spot program, folks can adopt a spot. Things like litter index and neighborhood cleanups and education. Education started with one person who came and volunteered. Her name was Bess Isaiah. She dubbed herself the trash lady. And she would take her globe and go out to the schools and talk about the importance of keeping our communities clean and recycling, and talking about how this world only has one planet and that's it. Well, we've grown a lot since then. We now have full programs in schools. We have adult education, business education as well. And so we've continued to expand. You might also be interested in some of the programs that we no longer do. Things like the graffiti hotline we actually started, and that's now called Reno Direct. We had a mascot called Flash Can. Maybe we'll drag that out of the archives at some point and use it again. Phone book recycling, if anybody remembers phone books. We had a huge program of phone book recycling, and of course that's gone away. Keep Trucking Meadows Beautiful has grown and expanded, and has one of the most marvelous fundraisers of any organization in town called Raise the River, which is really exciting. And so I am really excited to share with you the history of this organization and the fact that it's continuing to make our community a better place to live.